Hello and welcome back to VFX with Natron. So today we are going to be talking about SeExpr again. We started with it last on Saturday, and we got to a point, but there were some things that were not going right, beyond which Natron didn't actually display something right. When I saved it and reloaded it, it turned out that one of the problems fixed itself. I have no idea why it was displaying wrong, but anyway, today we're going to be also. I mentioned on Saturday that we created a fire. In fact, let's look at our fire from where we were. All right, so this is our fire that we started, or I should say we ended with on Saturday. And we had a couple problems here. One of the things is, as I said, it wasn't displaying correctly, and I was like, why isn't it displaying correctly? It turned out that all I had to do was save and reload it, and it fixed itself for whatever reason, because I just reloaded the project and it looked like this. So, but there still is actually a problem with this, and I want to address it because it is a problem. The first problem we have is, of course, if we go to the alpha channel on this, we'll see that we actually have a noise pattern on the alpha channel, and that's because we are feeding the SE noise into the SE expression here, and if we pull that away, we need to break that away so those aren't going in there. And then we see that the alpha channel is black, and then if we go off of the alpha channel, that we don't have anything in here. And the reason that is happening is because we don't actually have an alpha script in our SeExpr node. So all we have to do is put in a 1 here, and then click outside of it, and it will refresh it, and that is the way it's supposed to look coming out of the OCIO color node right here. And if we look at the alpha channel, it's solid white. All right, so this is what we should have wound up with. And then if we hit if we want to make it, we could add a glow after this to make it look glowy and whatnot. But that's beyond the scope of this. I just wanted to address that because that was something that was not completely clear. So I also pointed out that this is not the best way to do fire. In fact, we can do a better fire inside of SeExpr, better than any other form of fire. And another thing you might have noted is if you had compared this to what we had created using nodes alone, this might have actually rendered a little bit slower than the node version. And the reason for that is because all of these, we're reusing the same FBM fractal here. We're even though this is all the exact same, we're not using a single fractal. In our original one, we only calculated out our fractal one time, and then we added it to the result to the things to mix it together. Whereas this is calculating that FBM for each individual combination, which means it has to do 3 for the price of 1 in the other version, which means this is actually a little bit slower than mathematically. And the more things, this is more powerful, because if we want to interchange other types of fractals, that's something we can do here and in a simpler form. But from a pure standpoint of speed, this is actually slower than if we had used the separate nodes. However, we can do a form of the similar thing and make it better. And we're going to use a different type of thing. And I'm going to just back this up. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to copy this so that it's off to the side and put it aside so we have a backup of the original one. All right, so if anybody has gone through the editor that we demonstrated, you probably ran across this lovely, or these two, I should say, lovely little patterns early on in it, which are really, really kind of interesting. These two particular patterns, this noise color and noise color 1 and noise color 2, they do something that we don't actually normally have access to inside of Natron, or at least not easily. There's actually a few ways we could do something similar to this, but I just want to address this so that people can see what's going on inside of this program. And then we're going to take this code, we're going to put it inside of Natron, see how it works inside of Natron, see a limitation to it. And it's an unfortunate limitation, but there's a trick, we can make it work. All right, so what is going on here? What's this? This is just, all this is a noise. They've taken a standard noise. Noise like, here, let's just go over here. And in fact, let's just copy this into Natron as is, because we're going to be working with this for a little bit. We're going to copy this, paste it in here. Well, let's not eliminate our P for the moment. So we put it in here, and lo and behold, we have it. And you can see that there's a problem because it's not using P, so it's distorted, and we're not going to worry about the fact that it's not using P. We're just interested in the fact that this has created this thing, and it's using this noise here, and then it's coloring this noise using this thing called ccurve. And ccurve and curve are both, these are two types of gradients inside of SE noise, or excuse me, not SE noise, SeExpr. And in the editor, if we look at this, it pulls up, one of the things that's really neat is if you could define a variable, you can, like, for example, in this case, we've defined color, and it shows here color, and color is broken up into these three variables here. It has these points. It's a gradient, and if we pull on these gradient points, we can shift its position, we can change the position of this bit here, and we can change the position, and we create this, and we have access to change the way the colors are applying to one another inside of this, which is really exciting, because what this means, as you may remember, we already made something inside of Natron. We made fire doing something kind of like this. What we did is, instead of using noise, we used an FBM. So if we change this from noise to FBM, and we just do that, let's see if that, I think it actually, there we go. Let's try that, and let's hit apply. Oh, no, I think I did something. Oh, I see what I did wrong, I think we need to put this inside of a bracket here, because noise can work off of a or a two-dimensional thing, whereas FBM requires it to be three-dimensional. So there we go. We've turned this from a two-dimensional texture to a three-dimensional, or from a two-dimensional noise to a three-dimensional FBM. And by the way, noise is one of the few textures in here that can be two-dimensional. I recommend just dealing with it in 3 dimensions anyhow, because it's just easier inside of Natron. Anyhow, let's get back to, so here's this, let's pretend this is our noise that we had. This is our fire we made in Natron, all right? If we look at it from that standpoint, what we've got here is we've got a series of variables, all right? We have, I'm gonna try, the problem we have is that when you adjust it in this, it does break up its formatting, which is unfortunate. You can sort of see the formatting over here in Natron. So what it is this is broken into a series of bits. They're all combined with a pattern, but we apply a single noise pattern at the beginning, at the start. That's what this here in this case, we're using this thing called val, and val is defined right up here as this noise. This is what a noise is, all right? And then these here are a position on a gradient, which is these little bits here, these little knobs that are showing up here. Those are what these first variables are. Then there's a comma, and then there's a color value. These are the color values here. That's represented here. So over here in the editor, we see that we have the 0, the first color, which is position 00. See, 00 right here is the position. And then it's 1, which for the second position, which is you know, I think this was, excuse me, not 1, it's 0.59. So if we set this to 0.59, that was its second position. And then if we clicked on the third dot here and set it to, what was its 0.665, we've reset it to its default. So that's what it defaulted to, with the exception that it's a noise over in ours. And it's an FBM. We've changed it to FBM over here. So we can see that this position changes the position of those various points. So there's only 3 points, but we can have as many of these as we want. So the cool part about this is that right now, the way we created the fire in our original fire flamey wall tutorial with the text, flaming text, was we had 3 colors. We had yellow, we had red, and then we had black. And every time we wanted to add a new one, we'd have to create a new node, do a little bit of playing around with it, and so forth. And it would have been a pain in the rumpus to get it all functioning correctly. But the cool part about this is that with this slider system, we can literally, we could, in theory, literally create whatever we want in here. And in all honesty, if you can live with, if you don't want to animate these values, and I'm going to say that, put that in a quote, because it's going to make, you're going to see a limitation a little bit. Building your gradient inside of this ahead of time for like fire or whatnot is actually really, really easy. So, for example, if we wanted to turn this into fire, all we'd have to do is, all right, this is the top of this. This is our high point, so this would be our yellow. So if I grab that and I'll say, okay, which one of these am I working on? I'm working on position 0, which is right here, and it's these points. So I tell it, instead of 1, 1, 1, which is right here, 1, 1, 1, or 1, 1, it's actually 0.498. We're going to do 1, 1, and instead of 498, we're going to change that from 0.498 to 0.07. So that we get the same yellow we had inside of Natron, and then we go to the second color, which is the second bit in brackets here. Let's over here. Let's return this, and I want to go here, and I'm going to return it here, and I'm going to, just for the sake of this, so that it's all a little bit easier to see, I've broken it down again. So the zeros. You can see this is the start. This is a position, and this is the color. So the color, which right here, what we're going to do is we're going to select this second color right here, and we can actually click in this in here inside of the editor here, and we can pick out a color. So I could tell it, okay, I want that to start off with a red, and that set it to a red, but I don't want it to be 100. I want it to be 1.07 and 1.07. All right, that's what I want in mind. And then over here for the last color, we want it to be black, which means that we select the last one and we say, okay, instead of yellow, we want it to be black, and then we get 000. So here's our gradient, and we can see we can pull these bits around until we get something that looks more like what we had inside of Natron as far as a color. Now, there's a problem here, which is that our FBM, as we mentioned, we had modified things in the FBM when we made our fire. We had, as you remember, this attribute isn't just limited. Currently, all our FBM here has is a vector, the position of where this is happening in space, which is, the U and the V at 0, it's the U and the V times 10, which is not very useful for us. What we want to do is we need to also, okay, so we got a vector position. I'm going to just stop there. We have a vector position, but what we did is we increased the if we look back in here at our SE noise, we also have octaves, lacunarity. Oh yeah, I always have trouble with that one. And gain. These three things exist in there, so we need to add those to this and this in here. So what we're going to do is outside of this bracket here, and I know it's a little hard to see. I apologize. You know, maybe I should copy this code. I'm going to actually copy that line of code over into Natron for the moment. Let's just grab this line of code here, copy it, put it over here in Natron, paste it in, and when we click out, it updates. And then we're going to change our colors. Let's fix our colors. This was 1, 1. This is easy inside of Natron. All we got to do is put it at 0.07. Well, this one was red, so it was 1.0. 00, and then we have 0.0007 will be 0.070, 0.070. I want to get this so that it looks uniform over here. And then for the last one, it was 0, 0, and 0. So that should get us the colors that we want. So there's our basic. This is what our FBM looks like inside of Natron. So the problem is, of course, we don't have it at the proper points. Let's set it so that in its gradient, we're going to set it to halfway. We're going to make it go to the red, and at the end, we're going to make it go to the black. So we're going to say 1.000. All right. So what this is basically saying is that gradient position 0, it's yellow. At 0.5, it's red, and at 0.1, it is black. All right, and when we look up at our gradient, it doesn't look as good as it did before, and part of that is because this also has another attribute on it, this 4 at the end. And let's go back over to the editor for a minute and just look at what that is. In here, you'll see that there's this option on each of these. These are the 3 values here. We have the position, we have its color, and then the last thing is what is the spline type, or how it transitions from one color to the next. So if we're looking at this in here, and by the way, again, I recommend if you're designing your gradient, it's a lot easier in here. We can set it up, and we're going to set it up so this works inside of Natron eventually. But for right now, if you just don't want to deal with the hassle of it, we can do this inside of here. All right. So because we can drag these back and forth and get our positioning just right. All right. So here we are. We're in this. We're looking at this. You know, this red is looking way too bright to me. I'm thinking that we may want to take this red to more of a dark red, like there. There we go. That's looking more fiery like. And then we might take this yellow and knock this yellow off into more of a whitish yellow, like that. And yeah, I like that a wee bit more. Maybe this red, we can adjust it a wee bit, take down its saturation a bit more. Let's set it to like 200 for its saturation. And then take the saturation of this one. Let's take this up to 200 as well. There. I like that. The look of that. That's looking a little bit better. We're going to just be copying this into Natron at the end anyway. So there we go. We've got we're designing our gradient. We get something that looks kind of like what we want our final, fire to look like in here. But the difference is I could easily add another point. So if I wanted to add, say, purple into here, I could add another value into here by simply just adding another value into this. But what we want to do here is if we click over here and we change the spline type. All right, let's start off by changing this yellow. Actually, let's do it on the red, because we're gonna, I think we might, I don't know, remember if this affects going into it or coming out of it. And the reds will do both directions, so we'll get to see it. So it's currently set to this thing called M spline. All right. So if we set it to none, you can see that what happened is after it passes this point, it just turns to a solid color and continues consistently at that color until it gets to the next color, and then it turns to the next color. So it goes straight from red to black. Well, that could be useful. In fact, we can't do that without like messing with like contrast values inside of Natron. But we can do that with this. Or I should say with the SE noise node, we couldn't do this. But with this, we can. So that's one feature that this has, or another feature, I should say, that this has over SE noise. All right. So let's look what else, other types of transitions we can do. We can also do a transition of linear. Now, linear is where we're going to see the biggest difference. I won't say that I've actually visibly seen in this particular patterning any difference between all the different curve types. Honestly, I've played with it a lot and I'm like, I don't see any change. I don't see any change. So I'm sure there is a change, and in certain circumstances, one type of spline will work better than another type of spline. But the biggest differences are going to be when you switch from none, which is 0, to 1, which is linear, to any of the other curves. And so we're going to go here and we'll go smooth, which is the first type, and I think that's what Natron may default to. Actually, spline does take a difference here, so we are seeing a bit of a difference. So we can go from smooth to spline, and we're seeing a little bit of a difference in that dark area. Or take it back there, but we don't see much of a difference between spline and M-spline. And I think smooth might actually be a better option here for us. I like how it's transitioning. So let's change this to smooth. Nope, I don't like how it's working up at the tippity top. I actually like the spline styles better. We'll keep it at M-spline. So we'll keep the first one at M-spline, or the yellow transition at M-spline, the yellow or the red transition at smooth, and then the black transition we'll keep back at M-spline. Let's see if that, I don't think it's going to change much, but we can try. Nope, don't see anything. Don't see anything. So this one, this black, currently doesn't matter. So we've designed a gradient. We've designed it so we have a nice looking thing. We can literally take this whole thing at the end and just copy this and paste it into our Natron. And we have something that actually, whoops, why is that not working? Something went wrong here. I think we... syntax error. Let me look back at our thing. Let's grab this. Copy it. Grab this. Oh, we have two colors. That's why. Paste it. There we go. And now it updates. And here it is. All right. So let's first of all, let's address the first problem in this, which is obviously the fact that this is using U and V. Now we could substitute this with P, except for one of the things we want to be able to do here is we want to be able to animate this, and it's a lot harder to get in and adjust the nitty-gritty of things afterwards. So what we're going to do is, instead of using U and V, I told you before that what we like to do inside of Natron is use CX and CY. So I'm going to go to CX and we're going to just change this for right now from CX and or 10 times U and 10 times V to CX and CV. And obviously, because we haven't scaled it by any amount, it's going to look completely wrong here. And let's see, what do we got? What's it saying? Saying we have an error here. I know. Huh. Why is that? All right, well, that should be giving us something. Let me just take a look-see at what's going on here. I feel like we should be getting something out of this. 10 times double selling new bracket, yeah, FBM, ccurve, color equals ccurve. Huh. No variable. let's just separate this just a little bit so we can see this a little bit better. Let's do... This is a nice thing about this, is we can go back in here and we can actually set it up in Natron in a similar fashion. That seems to be doing that. Alright, and we want to do that there. Alright, so there's our variables, there's our colors, there's that, that's that, that's that. FBM. Oh yes, and another thing we want to do... Wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. $sign color. What's going on here? FBM? Let's try something here. Let's just do, for right now, one of the things you should know. Alright, to get UCX and CV to get the scale of an FBM pattern of what SE noise does, all we have to do is take CX or CV and divide it by whatever the noise size is here. So this is in our file, when we made our original file, we had used a scale size of 150. So all I have to do here is inside of our CX and CV is divide this. Oh, wait a minute. CX. Oh, I think I see what's going on here. CX. Hold on. Oops, that's the wrong thing. I'm doing the wrong thing. So where is it? It's here. CX. All right. So what we want to do is CX. Here it is on the FBM. We want to do divided by 150. All right. And then we want to do CV divided by 150. All right. And that should give that. And I'm still getting a wrong value here. Something is going very, very, very wrong here. What is going on? Color equals color semicolon. That's right. That's right. The FBM val equals $ val. Why is this not working? That should work. What is going on here? 10 times UVX, 0, blah, 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 blah. Let's just, for a moment, copy this. I'm going to replace it one more time. Just to go back. Let's see, is this working? All right, that is working. Now, if I take this, and instead of 10 times U, we put CX, and we hit that. There we go. CX is working. CV. Oh, not CV. That's the problem. I did CV. It's CY, not CV. CY. All right. So there we go. We have it. It's not right. So then we divide it by 150. There we go. We do 150 and we get the value goes correct. And then we do divided by 150 here for the Y. And we wind up with, there's our flames. That looks the same, or basically the same pattern as what we had originally in our flames when we did fire before. So if we, for example, plug this in here, we should wind up with something that looks very, very similar. Let's see. Wait a minute. Why is this not showing? All right. What's going on here? That's right. There we go. All right. So this is sort of what we had before for our fire, but this is the end result of our current thing. Let's take a look at it. Yes, that's what we have. And we can see that it looks a little weird. But the advantage to, of course, this system... Now, admittedly, we haven't tweaked this. We could tweak this more. But I wanted to get it to this point so that we can start talking about the math. We need to talk about math, all right? So, again, the problem we had here was the CY. We were using CV versus CY. I made a typo. My bad. I apologize. And the 150 is the same as the 150 over here. If we set this from a 350 down to 150, we can see that we wind up with the same basic scale for our noise pattern. The only difference is here what we also did is in our original one, we set our gain from 0.5 to 0.7. All right. Well, when we did that, it increased the how detailed it was. Well, we can also do that same thing here. One of the things we didn't do is over here in the FBM. Let me make sure we can see it here. In this, we only have the excuse me, I'm looking at the wrong variable. Over here in our value, or val here, we are only dealing with the FBM. We haven't actually done any of the extra variables. We haven't put in comma 6 for the octaves and comma 2 for the linearity, I believe is what I said it was called. Linearity. What am I doing it that way? Lacunarity. All right. Anyway, lacunarity, which is 2. All right. So we have set the lacunarity to 2, and then we put this to 0.7 for this, and we wind up, there we go. Now it's looking a lot more like we had expected it to look there. Let's copy these values and put those, whoops, not those values, these values here, and put the octaves and the lacunarity back into the editor version of it. Over here, we'll go over here, put that at the end here. So this looks similar. And when we do that, that ought to give us a better, let's hit apply. And there we go, we get to see it better. Now we can pull these around and start playing with this and get this a little bit better looking maybe. There we go, we can play with this, really fine tune the look of this before we put it into the actual back into ours. All right, so here we go. I like the look of that. Let's just grab that, and we're just going to copy this color value here, copy it, and we're going to put it back in here so that we get this. Bam. All right, that's the same thing. There we go. We wind up with something that looks pretty good. All right, and we could adjust that. The point is, I want to get on to one other thing here, which is let's separate these at the points. Oh, I know, it's a little bit of a pain. Let's put it here. So here's our colors, all right? What happens if we want to use... Let's back this up for a moment. I want to copy this over here. How do we animate this, and how do we change... All right, let's first of all, how do we change it so that it moves up? We want to make our fire move up, and we also want to make it move towards us. All right, well, that's all done with the value here. Right now, if we do it inside of the individual value before it gets divided by the scale, here's our value, our FBM up here. CX, before we do our scale, if we add to this, we will get our movement, or that would create our horizontal movement if we add it to the X. But if we add to the Y, so what we want to do is put in parentheses here, CY plus some variable, which oddly enough, it matches what it is in Natron, even though this is SeExpr or EXPR. If we to put in frame here, and then we should also say we want it to not just do it every frame because it's going to be too slow. We want it to move a Y, moving it up Y frame plus a certain increment. Let's do frame plus, so we want to put the frame times, because we want it every frame times some increment value to make it move at that increment faster. So we want it to move every frame. So if it's on frame 1, we want to do frame 1 times, we'll say, I'm going to say, keep it nice and low, we'll say, 20? That ought to give us a nice thing. Let's hit play and take a look at this. This should start, and oh, we're doing the wrong direction. Instead of CY plus, we are moving CY plus moves it down. So we want to change it from CY plus to CY minus. There we go. So that should make it start moving up. And there we go. We can see our flames are starting to move up. That might not be fast enough. I might change that from 20 to 30, just so that we can see that faster. I don't know. It might be too much if we do that. Let's get a sense of that. Just give it a chance. Yeah, 30. That was definitely too much. Let's go back to 20. 20. All right, so that gets our upward movement. Now we want to do our Z movement. Well, our Z movement is over here where we have our X, comma, our Y, and then we have our Z. Well, our Z is depth, which is currently set to 0. So to move it and Z depth, what we have to do is, well, add frame here. And then take frame and increase it by a given value, or make it move through that space. So we're going to move it frame times, I'm going to keep this, we want to make sure this is moving at a fairly slow pace. So we'll do frame times 3, and that should make the pattern move towards us or move away from us. It doesn't really matter which, but it should make it so that the licks, we'll call them, are moving towards us, and they change. So it looks like the fire is moving. Wow, whoa, that 20 is really, really too much. I thought that was going to be... I'm going to change this down. I think I'm going to, instead of... Let's make it 5 here. And let's just play that a little bit. I still think that's too much. Holy cow, I think that's times 3? Divided by 150? Let's... I think we need to do this instead of, you know what, I'm going to put this back at 20. I think what's happening here is it's actually this. Maybe instead of doing 3, what we should do is a fraction of a frame of it. We should do 0.3. Let's see if that fixes the problem. I think that's actually starting to. We may need to go even slower, less than that. Let's do 0.3. All right, that's starting to look better. Except for I think it's too low. Let's see. Instead of 0.3, let's put it at 0.1 times 0.1, a tenth of it. We want to get this so that it's moving towards us and we can actually see some change. There we go. We're starting to see changes as it flows upwards. Aha! So we've got it so that it's moving upwards at a speed, and we've got something. Let me just look at what I actually originally used. Did I have that in here? I don't have it in that one. All right. So there we go. We've got something, and let's back it up just so that because we're running out of time rapidly. And we can see this going, and once it hits this, we can sort of see our flame. It's moving a little bit fast, but you get the principle of it. We can adjust those things and get those working. I want to address the real crux of the problem right now, because really what we ultimately want to do is we want to take and replace these colors in here of the flame and control them. Wouldn't it be cool if we could control these colors the same way that we do inside of here? We have these gradient positions. Wouldn't it be cool if inside of Natron we could take this and control all that information inside the same way, pull these a gradient value along and also change its color? Well, we have a color here, and we actually have something, X values could be used to change the gradient position. Hey, makes sense. So why don't we start changing them? Well, let's start off by addressing the easiest ones. Well, let's back this up. I'm going to copy it so we don't lose what we've got. We're putting it off to the side. And let's change it. Let's change the first value here from, we have it set currently. Let's make sure we're on the right one. Our first color is starting off here. I think, where is it? Yes, it's at position 0, and it's going to be this here. It's this value here. Instead of this value, I want to set it to color 1. So I type in color 1. And that should, in theory, change what's there already with this color up here. We've seen it before. We did it before. Except for when we do it, what happened? It disappeared. Well, that's weird. Well, I'm going to chalk it up currently. It's just an oddity. Let's try the second one. Let's change this one from this really long set of values here to color 2. And then the whole thing disappears. And we're saying to ourselves, okay, well, we can see I already had the values that were used in the fire set up here. We should have wound up with something, but we're getting nothing. And this comes into the problem, and this isn't actually a problem inside of Natron. This is a problem with SE noise in general. SE noise has this excuse me, not SE noise, SE EXPR in general. The curve value has this problem where you can't actually use animatable variables for the parameters of the curve. Well, this is a problem because these up here are animatable values or parameters. So, and we can't feed it into the expression itself. So this creates a conundrum. We're stuck, except for we're really not. All right, let's undo our values here. Oh, it won't let me undo them. This is why we backed it up. Whoops, that's not the one. Beep, over here. We backed it up. Let's grab our color values here. Copy that. Go back over here. Grab this and replace. Let me make sure I'm replacing the right one. Replace it with that, and we're back to where we were. All right, so how can we fix this? We're only going to do this for one because we're running very long at this point, or getting to run very long. One of the things about Natron, as people might remember, from when we explored doing sorry. When we were doing Shader Toy, we started doing this thing where we were coding inside, or putting that code inside of a text node, and then bringing it over into an expression or as an expression. We were setting the expression over here. Well, why don't we try doing that? Let's instead copy this out of here, then over here we're going to take and make a new text node. All right, and we put this text node in here, and then we're going to take this text node and we're going to just use this as we're going to rename this to we're going to call it SE noise code. Okay, and we're going to put a 1 there just to be on the safe side so that we know what this is being used for. We're going to paste our information into there, our pre-existing thing, and we're going to minimize it so it's just that. All right, so right now what I have my SE noise down here, and I have my, I'm going to minimize this, by the way. We don't want to hide that yet. We're going to just put a 1 there for the SE noise. That way we can see it, and hopefully I just want to check the stream, make sure I'm sort of over this, but not too bad. All right, so what we got is we have our text node up here, and you know what? I'll just, for the moment, I'm going to float this, put the text node over here, so we can see this better. All right. So what we want to do is in our RGB script for our SE expression, we want to right-click and set an expression for this area, which brings up this. Then we want to take our text node, which is right here, and we want to take the text field, and we want to control drag this into our expression. And when I do that, this gives this, that puts this expression here, and I can sit here and I hit OK. And that puts it in there, and then we wind up with our expression. Aha! This is good. This means that we're treating this as Python text instead of actual code. So why is this useful? Well, because this is Python, we can actually address inside of the expression itself, we can put Python variables and update that text that is feeding into this before it gets evaluated by SeExpr. All right, this sounds tricky, right? How are we going to do this? Well, we're going to break it first. And before we break this, I have to tell you, we need to disconnect. We cannot be viewing this because the second you're viewing your SeExpr, this gets fragile because unlike Shader Toy, you don't hit a compile button. When you click out of this field, it will automatically update. So as long as we're not in this field, the text field here, it will constantly update this, which can lead to a lot of, which can cause, as we're messing around with this, it can cause Natron to lock up. So the best way to handle this is temporarily just disconnect your SeExpr node while we're messing with the expression, because this is going to do something dangerous. Oh, I like danger. Ooh. All right. How are we going to do something dangerous here? There's a thing, and we can. Whoops. We're going to go over here to our text node where the code is, and for our first variable, what we're going to do is change this. We're going to change the color. Here's the color over here on the left hand side, and we're going to change this. We're going to select this all, and instead of color here, I know I'm covering it up with the text over here. We're going to just select this whole section, and instead of putting color 1 there, we're going to put these curly brackets, and then we're going to put in 1, okay, and then we're going to put a curly bracket there. All right, and where this curly bracket is, we're going to be replacing that. Python has the ability to replace wherever it sees that with formatted code. All right, so this is where it gets really interesting and really tricky. We go back here, we can see our text over here has updated. Now it has the formatted code. All right, and we're going to edit this expression, and then we're going to sit here, and at the end of this, we're going to just type in, first of all, we're going to tell it that we want this to be multi-line, because we can't, remember that we need to have this process on a per frame basis. So the first thing we need to do is assign this to a local variable, so it will constantly pull that text. So I'm going to just call it out equals that. I'm going to tell it that this is a multi-line text, all right? And then I want to RET for return equals out. And then on my out, I want to format the output so that it's format, and then we format it by putting that stuff in parentheses, and then we put in what we're going to format it to with commas separating it for each variable. Every one of those little curly brackets, we put a number in there, and that represents how many things in here. And so here's what I'm going to tell you. In Python, there's this neat little trick we can do, that if you hit your backslash key, which is that key right there, and hit return, that moves the expression down, or moves us down a line. And I'm going to tell us we're going to hit a slash here as well, and put that curly bracket at the end. And this way we can sort of treat this as having one line per color. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just sit there. We're going to replace this with, well, what we're going to get the parameter from here. Well, which parameter is it? It's going to be this node's color parameter. Well, all right. How do I do that? Well, let's for right now, let's reset this to its default all dimensions. And we just grab this. If I grab this and drag it in here. All right, we get this, and it has this thing, and it says dimension. It's got said SeExpr1. Well, we could actually just type in this node for this color 1 get, and it has dimension. Well, we don't want the dimension. We want to put in we just want it to grab color 1. I think right there. Let's see. Is that what I want? I want it to be color 1. I think that's all we need. If I take this out and I put that here, I believe what we're going to do is replace this 1 currently, when I hit OK, I believe it's going to update that, and I believe it's going to format it with our color 1, which let's change this back to 3, and we're going to put it back to, we're just going to put it to 1. I'm going to set it back to yellow, the yellow we had at the beginning. There we go. That's the one we used. Let's hit OK, and it should... Oh, it's giving us an error. Why is it giving us an error? Let's take a look at this. Aha! The problem is it says unexpected character /n. That's because it didn't recognize the multi-line here. I hit multi-line. Let's try that. It's not... There we go. It's saying error while executing the script. Alright, it's saying it's got a problem here. Why is it got a problem? Let's make sure I've done this correctly. I'm going to, just to ensure that we're getting, that this is working properly in the first place, we say that snow color 1 get, I believe that should tuple. Oh, I know what the problem is. I know what the problem is. Let's hit cancel. All right, the reason we've got an error is not because it's doing it wrong. It's because I put the wrong number in here. It shouldn't be 1. The first incident, or the first number in anything when we're doing something isn't 1, it's 0. So we put 0 for our first number in our text field. And then when we click out of that, it should update that. Then we go to our edit expression. It's going to give us this error. We hit multi-line, and there we go. We're getting the proper output here, and we can see that down here, if we go down, it has the thing, and it should give us color 1 get. You know what? I think what we want to do is we're going to have to specify this. We're going to have to specify it as individual bits. We're going to take it, we're going to take this, and we're going to select this, copy it, and we're going to get the individual values here. We're going to replace that with comma. Oh, wait a minute. This isn't going to work. I got to think about this. Why is that not going to work? Is that going to work? Is that going to work? I'm doing this wrong. I know I'm doing this wrong. And I apologize. We're going to run just a little long on this just to make sure we get this right. All right, let's see if this... I think I'm currently passing it the node, which is going to throw it. It's not doing the correct thing. It's getting a Natron tuple, which is not what we want. We want it to get the actual values. All right, so what we're going to do, just be to ensure this works, is back here in our color, we're going to just do 3 values. All right. Let me just verify. I think I have this functioning somewhere else. I want to make sure of this. I have this working over, where is it? Here. I just want to verify my code. Edit expression. No, I did do it that way. All right, I do have to do it. I've got it set up wrong. All right. So let me minimize that so that's out of the way. What we have to do here, oh, I'm sorry. What we need to do is we have to address each individual value for this. All right. So what we need to do is set bracket. We have to do a regular bracket. Treat this like regular color code here in our thing. So we have 3 variables. We have the red, we have the green, and we have the blue. So 0 is the red. Then we go bracket or curly bracket 1. Oh, we have to do comma, curly bracket 1, end curly bracket, and then, whoops, wait a minute, end curly bracket, comma, curly bracket 2, end curly bracket, and then regular square bracket, or call these. So we have, one more time, we have square bracket, curly bracket, 0, curly bracket, comma, open curly bracket 1, close curly bracket, comma, open curly bracket 2, comma, close curly bracket, close square bracket, and then comma. And so what we've done is we've created 3 variables here, 0, 1, and 2, that the Python is going to look at. So let's go over to our Python. All right, so this is what our text node is. We're going to leave it up here for the moment. And I'm going to go back to our expression, and you'll see it's throwing an error. So we got to, that's because this is working incorrectly. What we need to do here is it says node, this node get color 1 get, and then we need to, inside of brackets, we need to put 0 here because we want to get the first variable, a color variable, which is going to be the red. And then we need to separate, put a comma. We're basically going to put 1 of these per 1 color per line. That way it's very readable. So we're going to hit paste twice, all right? And so these are going to be, the first one is value 0. The second one is going to be value 1. So we want to tell it that we want to get the second one from this color. So we say instead of 0, we want to do 1, and for this one we're going to do 2. All right. There we go. Now our output down here should be showing the correct thing, and when we look at our output down here at the bottom, we see that we should be seeing it says 0107. All right. Well, it's close to correct. Why are we getting the wrong thing here? We're getting something. Let me look back at my code. All right. It's saying I've got it there. Let me edit this expression and look at this. Format. This node, color 1, get bracket. All right, let's, Well, it's working, but it's not working. Let's see what we've got. We're getting the wrong value. That's weird. We should be getting, it worked that time. All right, as soon as we updated it, it worked correctly. So, and let's just verify, no matter what I hit in here, if I set it to blue, if I set it to yellow, if I set it to green, it is indeed working. So we've bypassed this problem. Now we are able to physically change this variable. All right. So we've done this. All right. But what we haven't done is we haven't made it so, and we can reposition this. So what I want to do is put up here for the X values, I want to tie this first color with that as well. So I'm going to go edit expression. I'm going to go back here to this. And for the next line, what we're going to do is we're going to create another, all right. Let's go back here to, actually, let's cancel our expression for the moment and disconnect it. I want to disconnect it because I don't want our broken code to screw this up. I'm going to pull this up. Oh, we can't make that bigger. All right. Over here, this is our variable. This is our starting position, is this first thing. Well, the cool part, and another cool part about this is we don't actually have to do these in order. We've already set these up as 0, 1, 2. Over here, I can put my curly bracket 3 because this is my third variable in this. Although I recommend if you do this in the future, you do this, you know, on your own. It's better to do it in order. That way it doesn't get confusing. But for our case, we're just, because it's working, we're going to just keep it at, we're going to add 3 there, all right, to our text node, which is the code. Then we're going to go over here. We can see we're getting an error here again because it's updated. Hit edit the expression, go over here. And for the third thing, what we're going to do is we're going to put a new line here. And we're going to put, for our third thing, which is in the new line, we're going to say x1, and then we're going to put a backslash like that, just like we did in the previous line. So this line here is our color, and this next line is the variable which is going to be controlling the color, which is our x1. All right, we hit OK, and it should have worked, but it is not. Why is it not? Let's see. Let us edit our expression. It's saying X1 is not defined. X1 most certainly is defined. Alright, why is that not working? Does that have a comma after it? This node 2, comma. Yes, comma X1 n slash. That should work. It is Python global name X1 is not defined. What we're going to do is copy our code. This is tricksy stuff. We're dealing with, as I said, this gets weird. So we're going to copy it out of here, hit OK. We're going to clear the, set the expression. We're going to just set this to 1 for the moment. And then we're going to clear the expression. All right. Clear this variable. We're going to set the expression, and then we're going to paste our things back in. We're going to hit the, it's saying it's got an error here. So we're going to hit 1, and it's still saying X1 is not defined. Why is that not defined? Oh, of course. Because we're not directly accessing it. I'm doing silly me. We have to do it. We have to get this node .x1 because this is Python. We're not directly accessing it. It's not in the thing. We got to do .get parenthesis. There we go. Now it's not throwing an error there. That's why it wasn't working. And now we should have it. And 1, it's set to 1, which is going to throw off our variable. So this is going to be really weird, but so we're going to set that back to 0 for now, and let's pull this out of the way, and let's grab that and connect it back up, and it should be working. And now if we grab our 0, and by the way, this is a huge number. You can see, okay, so this position exists between 0 and 1. And this is a flaw or a problem with this, which we will address at another point in time. This can be a number from -1000 to +1000 or more, which means we don't want to drag this slider, or we're going to be going all over the place. Instead, what we're going to do, just to make sure this is actually physically functioning, is we're going to just casually move this in 10% increments, and we can see, as I change this, indeed, I have this control of this variable here. And so I do gain access to it. So now that we've seen how that works, all we have to do is we would have to program all those bits into our Python script, into this, and replace all of the variables in here that we want to control with the appropriate bracket parentheses to the proper control, and do the get values in Python. And we can get that. The one caveat to this I'm also going to add is, whatever you do, do not right click in these and reset the values to their defaults, because I've had an experience where that can also cause it to break. But this does work. It saves, it opens, and here's the thing. This is something that can't be done, as far as we know, in any other version of this. We can animate these variables. Natron can change these colors dynamically. No other version of SeExpr can do that with the curve node. That is pretty cool. So we're doing something that's technically impossible. All right. I'm going to call it there. I am going to do, actually, one more thing. I'm going to just pull up just the original expression. This is my original one that I had, just to show that I have the variable, this set up, like if we go back here to the original thing and we were to go back to this, this is that texture, but it's obviously isn't color corrected for Natron. I didn't put the OCIO here. We'll put that in there. OCIO. Whoops, that's not right. OCIO, color space over here, and we'll just set it to RGB so it looks the same. There we go. So now we can see that indeed these look the same. So, whoops, I clicked on the wrong Natron. We'll go back here to our thing. I just want to show that this indeed works for all of the variables. I can just grab hold of this. Whoa, I grabbed the wrong thing. I actually grabbed the slider. Or set this up. If we put it to 0, I can increase this one and change its position. I can change this one. The position of the 0.2 just the same way. You can see I can change that. And I can also change 0.3 as well. So it does work. We can set it for as many. And just to show you, if we edit this expression, you can see that it's working. This is just done in a different way. This is, instead of pulling it from a text node, this was coded directly in the node itself, which is a bigger pain in the bump because you got to actually try and sift through the code as opposed to writing it correctly so that it would actually function as an actual SE expression and then just replace the bits. We'd have to do it. And I believe in keeping our actual expression, the two languages, separate from one another. So don't do it this way. Do it the way I showed in today's video. But I did want to show that this will work cumulatively, and to show that we can animate this, just to give us one more thing. Let's just for the sake of argument, let's go back to 0. Let's animate our upmost parameter. Let's set a key on all dimensions, and we'll go to frame 53, and then we'll pick another color like blue, and there we go. And we can go back to the beginning, and when we hit play, as we see, it's animating. That can't be done in any other version of SeExpr I know of currently. So that's something Natron can do that's unique. Alright, again, thanks for watching. Have a great Natron day, and keep on Natroning.